Okay, this is going to be the next video on factoring trinomials. Okay, we're going to get some trinomials and some difference of squares. Okay, so basically a lot of the concepts we learned from the last lesson still fall into play. Okay, so I would still want to check the GCF stuff. Okay, now what number is in front of I squared here? That's a 1. So when you see all these, that's a 1, that's a 1, that's a 1, that's a 1. Okay, so when you're doing the GCF stuff, it's going to be 1. This will be 113 and 40. As you can see, there's nothing there. Okay, so just like before, we multiplied this time, term times this time, that's 40. Okay, now, since everything is positive, I don't need to really worry about it. Factors of 40 are 1 and 40, 2 and 20. 3 doesn't go in because 40 divided by 3 is no good. 40 divided by 4 is 4 and 10. Sorry, that would be 4 and 20. 2 and 20, 4 and 10. And then try 5. Okay, 5 and 8. All right. Only other numbers to try are 6 and 7. 6 no, 7 no. All decimals. Okay. So once again, just like before, set that I'm looking for adds up to here. That would be 13. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my box. First term, 1i squared. This would be plus 5i to the first, plus 8i to the first. Okay, plus 40. Okay, GCF's going across. Okay, once again, I would go at least these 2 rows, and then you can work with the other parts. Okay, so I got 1 and 8, which is 1, and then 5 and 40, which is 5. Okay, so 1 and 5. This has an I to the first. This does not. This one, 1 times 1 would give me that. This would have an I to the first there. 1 times what would give me 8? That would just be 8. Okay, so I got 1i to the first plus 5. Okay, 1i to the first plus 8. Okay, now all the same rules with negatives. Now, in the interest of saving time in the video, all right, I would type this in. I'll do it one more time. All right, I'll check the GCF. You should do that on every single one. Okay, all right, so I would have 1, -2, and -63. All right, same thing. It's going to be 1. Okay, all right, so 1 times -63 would be -63. All right, obviously I know 1 and 63 works. Let's try 2. Nope. Let's try 3. 3 and 21. Okay, all right. Try 4. Try 5. Nope. Try 6. Nope. Try 7. Yep, 7 and 9. And the other one would be 8. So 7 and 9 are the last ones. Now, remember, just like from our last ones, if you see negatives, okay, start with one side being negative. Now, does this times this give me that? Let's see. Okay, let's see. -1 times 63. Great, it gives me that number up top. Now, I'm looking for the set that adds up to -2. This set right here would add up to +2. So, what was our change there? Make this positive and this negative. Okay? All right? So that would be my set there. Okay? So now I'm going to use my box. Let me erase this too, because poor use of board space here. Okay, here's my box. Okay, so 1i squared plus 7i minus 9i to the first. To the first as well, minus 63. Okay, you need to do the GCFs. Okay, I got 1 and -9 is 1, and then that's a 7 there. Okay, 7 and -63. Okay, 7 and -63 is a 7. Okay, so this would be a 7 here. Okay, no I. This was a 1. I to the first, because I got I to the first. 1 times 1. This would be I to the first. 1 times -9. Okay, remember that's got to be negative, okay, because there's that sign there. So I got 1I to the first plus 7, 1I to the first minus 9. Okay, all right. Let's do this one. Okay, all right. I'll continue to show the GCF stuff. Okay, I got 1, 9, 18. Okay, it's 1. All right, so I can multiply. 1 times 18 is 18. Factors of 18, 1 and 18, obviously. 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4 and 5 don't work. Now, since I see negatives, I start out by making one side negative. Okay, now, the problem is, when I do -1 times 18 that's in my chart, does it match? No. So I got to make both sides negative. Okay, I'm looking for the set that adds up to -9. That would be this set, -3, -6. Okay, so box 1I squared minus 3I to the first minus 6I to the first plus 18. Okay, all right. GCFs, you can do those horizontal rows. 1 and 6 is 1. 3 and 18 is 3. So this would be 1I. There's only first 3. All right, to the first. Since this is a negative, that's got to be a negative. Okay, 1 times 1. Okay, 1 times -6. Okay, so this would be I to the first. There would be no I there. So these factors are 1I to the first minus 3. Okay, 1I to the first minus 6. Okay, let's go to this problem here. Okay, all right, GCF. Okay, GCF 1, 4, 45. Okay, it's still 1. All right, and then since they all have I's, that's the way that works. So it's -45. Factors in -45 are 1 and 45. I think 3 and 15, 5 and 9. Okay, all right, all the other ones give you decimals. Okay, now since I see negatives, start by one side. Let's check to see if it works. Okay, let's check to see if it works. -1 times 45. Does it give me this number? Great. I'm looking for the set that adds up to 4. It ends up being this one. Boom, right there. Okay, all right. So I would do my box. Okay, so I got 1I squared minus 5I to the first plus 9I to the first minus 45. Okay, all right. I'm going to do the GCFs horizontally. All right, so that's going to be 1 and 9, which is 1. Okay. And then I would do 5 and 45, which is 5. Okay, so 1, and then this would be a 5, but a negative. No I there, but I to the first there. 1 times 1. This has an I to the first. 1 times 9. And that does not. Okay, so the factors there are 1I to the first minus 5, 1I to the first plus 9. Okay, all right. Want to throw this one more example here with this, okay? All right. Okay, so I want to put that. Okay, I got 1, -1, and -12. Okay, automatically if you see a 1 in there, you know that there's no number GCF, okay? Because nothing else goes into 1, okay? Once again, if you need to do this every time, that's fine, okay? 1 times -12 is -12. That's going to be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Okay, once again, because I see negatives, I start out one side negative, okay? All right, let's check it out. -1 times 12. Great, it's good. Now, I'm looking for the set that adds up to this. That number there is a -1, so you've got to be careful. -3 plus 4 is +1. Now, what's the quick fix? Change the signs there. So now I would be at negative 1. Okay? Box 1i squared plus 3i to the first minus 4i to the first minus 12. Okay? All right? So what I got there, I'll check 1 and negative 4. It's 1. 3 and negative 12 is 3. Okay? So 1i to the first, a positive 3 there. 1 times 1, I to the first. 1 times this would have to be negative 4. Okay? So 1i to the first plus 3. 1i to the first minus 4. Okay? All right, so not a lot of change there. Okay? All right, I would like you guys to go ahead and pause your video and work on these. Okay, unpause. Okay, there are no GCFs. Okay, so I'm going to save that step. There's all ones here though. Okay, 1 times 80 would be 80. Factors of 80 are 1 and 80, 2 and 40 would be 4 and 10. No, I'm sorry, 4 and 20, 5 and 16, 8 and 10. Okay, I am looking for the set that adds up to 18. It would be this set. Okay, so 1i squared plus 8i to the first plus 10i to the first plus 80. Okay, all right. So what I would have here, okay, GCF wise is 1 and 10 is 1. 8 and 10. 8 and 80, sorry. 8. Okay, so this would be 1 and 8. This has an I to the first. This doesn't have an I. 1 times 1. I to the first would give me that. 1 times 10 would give me that. So 1i to the first plus 8. 1i to the first plus 10. Okay? Moving on to this one. 1 times negative 48 is negative 48. Factors of negative 48. Okay? 48 and 2 would be 24. So 1 and 48, 2 and 24. 3, 16. We'll do 4 and 12. And then 5's no good, you'll see. And 6, try 6, 6 and 8. Okay, 6 and 8. Now, since I see negatives one side, okay, I gotta test it. Still gives me that number up top. Looking for the set that adds up to negative 2. I think it's this set. We gotta check it though. It adds up to positive 2. Okay, so it adds up to positive 2. So what I gotta do is change that to positive, change that to negative, so I got a negative there. Okay? So this is gonna be 1i squared. Okay, plus 6i, minus 8i, minus 48. It's just going to be 1. Okay, I'm going to save myself some time with that. Okay, all right, if you have 1, then automatically we know that's no good. 6, 48 is going to be 6. Okay, this has got to have an I. 1 times 1, I to the first. 1 times negative 8. Okay, so plus 6 times 1i to the first. Minus 8. Okay, moving on to this one. 1 times 28 is 28. Factors of 28 are 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. Okay? All right. So what I got here, I got negatives. Let's make one side negative. Okay, negative 1 times 28 is negative 28, so that's not good, so I gotta make both sides. Okay, I keep getting this bottom one. It can be any of the ones in between, okay? In the interest of the classwork problems, yeah, too late now, okay? That'll be this one, okay? So I got 1i squared minus 4i minus 7i plus 28. All right, that's a 1, so I know that's 1i to the first. Okay, if I need to check 4 and 28, parentheses. 4. Since there's a negative here, that's here. 1 times 1 I to the first would give me that. 1 times negative 7. So 1 I to the first minus 4. 1 I to the first minus 7. Okay? All right, let's go to this one. Factor 1 times negative 70 would be negative 70. Factors are 1 and 70, 2 and 35. I don't know if anything else works. 4, no. I think it's 3, no. 6, no. 7, yeah, 7 and 10. 7, 10. Now, since I see negatives, okay, let's test to see if it works. Negative 1 times 70 is negative 7, okay? This set adds up to 3, exactly 3, which is good. Okay, 1I squared minus 7I to the first plus 10I to the first minus 70. Okay, this will be 1I to the first. This will end up being negative 7. 1 times 1I to the first, 1 times 10. Okay, 1I to the first minus 7, 1I to the first plus 10. Okay, so those are those factors. Okay, now let's move on to these. Okay, so say, Mr. Evans, how do we get 4 terms out of this? When you see these 2 terms with a minus, a squared term with a minus in between. Okay, you can do this technique. You can go right to the box where this is your first term and this is your last term. Okay, now what you can do, okay, there is a 1 here, so put a 1 there. Okay, I'm going to, when you have this, you can take square roots of the positive numbers and put them down the side. Okay, so what I got, square root, hit shift and that of 1, shift square root 36. Notice positives. So 1, okay, all right, and I got positive 6. Now, what have we always had here? We've always had i's, okay? So this will be I to the first, okay? All right, this will not have an I, because that one has a number. So the idea is that I can write these like this, okay? Now, the only trick to this is this times this has got to give me that, so that's going to be minus 6, okay? So take the square roots, put the numbers on the sides of the boxes, and make one number negative. Make one number negative. Okay, so my factors are 1I plus 6, 1I minus 6. Okay? All right? Now, same thing here. Make my box 9I squared minus 49. All right? Square root of 9, square root of 49. Okay, so that's 9I to the first, and 3I to the first. Hold up. 3I to the first and 7, 3I to the first and 7. So I just got to make that one negative, okay? So 3I to the first plus 7 times 3I to the first minus 7. Now, the reason why you don't have anything in the middle is if I did 6 minus 6, I get 0. So that's why they don't have that term. Okay? So 2 terms, 25I squared minus 4. I can take the square root of 25, square root of 4. That's 5I. Okay? And 2, 5I to the first minus 2. So those are my 2 factors. Okay? If you're using Desmos, the square root button's right here. Okay? So you can just use the square root. Okay? All right? Not overly complicated. Square root right there. All right? This one, there's a 1 there. I squared, 1I squared minus 81, square root of 1, square root of 81. It's going to be 1I to the first plus 9, 1I to the first minus 9. So those are the, ends up being the factors. Okay? So what I would like you guys to do is go ahead and pause your video and go ahead and do these examples. Okay? This is a 1, this is a 1. Okay? All right, I could check the GCF parts of it, which I probably should have. All right? But there's not going to be a GCF. Okay? All right? So always check that. All right? So 1I squared minus 121. So I'm going to take the square root of 1. Let's take the square root of 121. Okay, 1I to the first plus 11, 1I to the first minus 11. And those end up being the factors. Okay, all right, let's do this one. 64I squared minus 9, square root of 64, square root of 9. 8I plus 3, 8I minus 3. Those end up being the factors. Okay, this one, 49I squared minus 100, square root of 49, square root of 100. Okay, so 7I, right, plus 100, 7I minus 100. Okay, this one, 1I squared minus 121, square root of 1, square root of 121. 1I plus 11, 1I minus 11. 1I plus 1, 11, 1I minus 11. Okay, difference of squares, pretty easy stuff. All you gotta do is take the square roots, okay? All right, that one's probably one of the easiest types of factoring.